Begriffe wie E-Learning, Homeschooling, Homeoffice, das kennt mittlerweile jeder und das verlangt auch einiges von uns ab. Gerade Digital Skills, die benötigt werden. Man muss wissen, wie man in so einer digitalen Umgebung interagiert. Das ist natürlich nicht ganz einfach und wir stehen zumindest auch in dieser Zeit vor einer großen Herausforderung. Da spreche ich, denke ich mal, für viele Menschen. Und in diesem Panel Talk soll es darum gehen, hier gleich hinter mir werden viele Leute Platz nehmen, die aus den verschiedensten Bereichen kommen und natürlich ihre Erfahrungen auch teilen möchten. Moderiert wird das Ganze von Simon Johanning vom Codecamp. Der Panel Talk wird auf Englisch stattfinden und ich würde mich freuen, ihn hier begrüßen zu dürfen, die Moderation damit zu übergeben. Und ich wünsche einen guten Austausch. Viel Spaß.
Ganz herzlichen Dank, Daniel. Genau, herzlich willkommen auch an alle, die im Livestream sind. Ich freue mich sehr, hier sein zu können. Wie bereits gesagt wurde, ist der Panel Talk auf Englisch. Das heißt, ich werde jetzt auch auf Englisch wechseln. So, welcome again, everyone. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to have the chance to have 4 wonderful panelists today for the topic of developing skills for a digitalizing world. And as Daniel already said, that like Corona really made it obvious that we're both ill-equipped and ill-prepared for dealing with the digital skills. I mean, digitalization is an old shoe, but Corona really made it very obvious how important it is and how important it is to have these debates and this discourse and to talk about the topic. And that is the topic for today. That's what we want to talk about. And I want to introduce 4 wonderful panelists. I want to introduce Gabe and Inga. And I want to introduce Lena and Victoria.
Good morning, everybody.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm not a friend of using many words to introduce people, because I think people are much better at introducing themselves and telling us about the things that are important for them and telling us about all the complexity that there is. And I know that you all had very interesting journeys, and it would be really very nice to hear for the panelists or for the people in the stream how you came to where you are now. I would like to start with Gabe. Can you tell us something about yourself and maybe what your stance is on developing skills in a digitalizing world and why you're so passionate about it?
Okay. Yeah, hello. My name is Gabriel. I'm a co-founder and lead instructor at Codecamp Leipzig. Originally, I came to coding through music. So I have a music background. I studied film music composition. And film music composition is a study where you use digital tools all the time. Basically, your main task is to make the computer sound like an orchestra. And I was quite fascinated by the tools that we had to use, but also challenged by them and inspired, and then got interested in programming because I wanted to build some of those tools maybe myself. And that then took off, and I actually stopped studying music and switched over and started my own music software business. That's also when I came to Leipzig and have been here for 5 years. I then also went down a rabbit hole on programming language design, really got into it. And then at some point, the decision came to found a Codecamp because I was interested in educating people in the skills that I have learned. And especially that interesting idea of people coming from different backgrounds, learning about programming and combining them in the same way that I did. So that's why I got really passionate about it, and that's what I'm doing today.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, Inga, I know that you also had an interesting journey, and I think for you was like very important to come to Leipzig and to build your life here and to build skills and to think about how to build skills. Could you tell me something about that?
For sure. So I came to Leipzig 2 years ago in the summer of 2018, and I came to Leipzig from Israel, where I had spent the previous 2 years working with startups, growing startups, innovative companies, and helping them with their finances and processes and structures. Israel has been one of the most exciting experiences where I learned a lot. It was like a second apprenticeship in entrepreneurship. I had just before that founded my company in Germany, went to Israel, and worked with the companies there. And what I found is that digitalization helped me to accomplish this. I wouldn't have been able to do this. I wouldn't have been able to have a company in Germany and be in Israel at the same point in time and keep up all the relationships between Germany and Israel. Without digitalization, there would have been no opportunity to have meetings. There would have been no opportunity to even get my physical mail in Germany and see the letters in wherever I was in the world. So this is what digitalization on a very small level has been for me. It enabled me to be where I wanted to be and be what I wanted to be.
Thank you, it was wonderful. Well, digitalization as an enabler is a big topic for you as well, Lena, because I know that, like, for you, learning digital skills and preparing yourself better for a digital world really enabled a lot of things for you, both in your skill set and in your state of mind, in your confidence. So, can you tell me something about that?
Yeah, hi, I'm Lena. I'm a Code Camp alumni of the first class, and I come from a social science background. I have a bachelor in French literature, and then I decided to go into programming, and I started studying digital humanities, which is a mixture of social sciences and computer science. And I believe that's becoming more and more important in the times of digitalization, that you have like both skills. And right now I am working as a working student in front-end development, but I'm also writing my thesis about ethics in AI, and my main focus lies on the discriminating aspect of AI and like sexism, racism, classism. And I believe that for me, being able to program opens up so much for me and opens up so many possibilities, and it gives me so much freedom, but I feel like I'm in a very privileged position to be able to learn that, to have the freedom to spend like 2 or 3 years to actually learn programming and then get this freedom of these skills and I believe the digitalization can help to fight inequality, but we actually have to put a lot of work into this, because right now a lot of inequalities are being reproduced in the digital world. So yeah, that's my...
That's fantastic, yeah. And finally, we have Victoria. I mean, Victoria has a very, very rich and diverse background. And now she's a HR manager, and so she's facing the question of skills from a different perspective than most people. But she has her own perspective on things, anyways, because she wasn't always a HR manager. And maybe you tell us something about where you come from and what got you to where you are now.
Sure. I'm happy also to be here this morning, and when I was preparing myself for today, I thought about what was my first touch point with startups. When I think of startups, I usually think directly of digitalization in digital companies, and my first touch point was probably my bachelor thesis I wrote in entrepreneurship, founder-team mix, diversity matters. Sounds like a really, really catchy title, but in the end it was, I was forced to do a really theoretical approach. I didn't talk to any founder before. I haven't seen a startup from the inside, but yeah, so I looked into how diversity can impact a team. After the bachelor, I moved forward and studied lifelong learning. So I left the business side and looked more deeper into why people learn, how people learn, what kind of emotions are connected with learning and development. And still, I'm so passionate about seeing people grow and develop more skills. And this you're usually also not just doing by going to university, doing a course. It's also about practical experience. So during the master, I applied for an internship in recruiting at Project A in Berlin. Maybe you heard about Project A. It's an operational VC. I was invited to the interview. I didn't have any experience in HR. Some theoretical knowledge, okay, but I also didn't saw a startup or an investment company before. And they also asked me if I could explain what is incubation, what is acceleration, and I had, to be honest, no clue. But I made it. So they saw potential in me, and I brought the right mindset, and I will fit to the culture of the company. So I joined the Berlin startup ecosystem 8-9 years ago. It was a crazy journey. So I worked with more than 50 startups over the last years, or companies in digital stages. I have seen many people grow, and I also grow a lot. So I became passionate about tech. I never thought about I can do this, and I developed myself from, I would say, more analog person, maybe using Facebook, but not so much more. And now I'm so curious about all these digital tools, agile methods, and since 3 years around that, I'm focusing on developing people and culture and companies. So, and I always thought about, okay, what kind of environment people want to work in, and yeah, so I try to build an environment that people would love and that people would feel safe doing such a digital journey.
Awesome. Yeah, cool. So I'm really glad to have you all here. You're all very interesting people, and I'm really looking forward to discussing the things and this really important topic today. First, I have something for the audience. As promised, there's a Q&A session, and so there's the Slido app where you can submit your questions. We'll answer them in the Q&A session after we have our panel discussion. So please feel free to submit them, preferably in English, but if it's absolutely necessary, then you can always, of course, put them in German, and we try our best to make it work so it's also understandable for the people that watch that are not fluent in German. And so please feel free, anything that you're interested in, let us know. What I want to start with the panel discussion today is the social interactions. People usually, when they think digitalization, they think of tools, they think of something impersonal. They think of people sitting alone behind a screen, and the interactions being very much one way or very one-dimensional. But human interactions really are very multifaceted, and that is something that I realized much more in the past few weeks and months, how important it is to be very intentional about fostering social interactions in digital sphere, because you don't have the social clues that you can respond to, and you don't have all the tacit and implicit stuff. And Gabe, I know that you're very much faced with that topic right now, because you went from a full in-person classroom to a fully digital classroom, where the interactions are a very different way. You have to be a lot more purposeful on it. So what are your observations on that?
Yeah, so that's true. Like, I basically did the switch from the analog to the completely digital, having done the last code camp completely in person. And now basically day 2, it was, okay, lockdown. We had 1 day in person, and then we switched back and are now doing it in Zoom since 10 weeks. And it has been quite interesting. Like, a lot of surprises happened, basically. A lot of things actually worked out better than before. That was really interesting to see. So I'm completely on board with the idea that it is not really the difference between analog or digital. Like, it's more the intentionality. And it's not that the digital is inhumane by nature. It's not robotic. In the same way, analog is not human by nature. It's what you make of it, I would say. And yeah, to sum up a little bit, like, one thing that works out really nicely is that you get all the digital tooling to have screen sharing, to do pair programming. We have all the video recordings. Like, that's just a nice benefit on top of everything. But then also that people are learning from the comfort of their own home, which is super, has some benefits. It also has some drawbacks. But in general, I've seen a lot of good things happening with that. And autonomy is one thing that I'm still missing from these tools. So the problem that people can't make decisions, oh, I want to sit next to this person or this person in a classroom, like that's missing. And also a little bit the atmosphere in the room. So there are some challenges that the tools still have to live up to, and being able to use the tools wisely is another thing that we have to get better at. But I think it's all problems that can be solved. And then we can get the best of both worlds, like the benefits that we have in the analog interaction that's really natural, together with the things that aren't possible in an analog setup. So yeah, I'm really hopeful for the whole transformation, that we can actually get to a better place on top. Like I won't, when we get back to an in-person classroom, I won't lose all of that. Like some of this stuff I want to transfer over.
So Inga, you are in the classroom right now. I mean, not today, but all other days. And so, how's it for you? Also with the social interactions, or maybe the lack thereof. How is the learning environment if it's not in person? What feels different?
Coming from an environment where digital interaction has been in my daily work life pretty much for the past years, it wasn't that difficult for me personally to switch back to digital. Like with the lockdown, as Gabe has said, we had one single day in person in the classroom, and then we went digital. And I was very happy to share my experience on how to set up Zoom, how you could use stuff like breakout rooms, how we could make it work. So for me as a student, it wasn't that much of a switch. I actually enjoyed it, and I do enjoy learning from home. I've got a good setup at home, and I know I can even attend lessons, and I can rewatch lessons. I can interact with people. There is a chat function. We have a digital learning platform that we use. It's actually an enhancement for me, and I enjoy it very much. I am looking forward to the times when we can use whiteboards and colorful pens and sticky notes again, because I really dig that stuff. But I'm also fine with being in a digital code camp right now.
So Victoria, how is it for you? Because you live off social interactions as well. I mean, as your job is to gauge people or to like engage with people. And that is something that is just lives from the energy or the vibe of people and the interactions.
So the company where I'm working for, Prisma, so I think we are kind of a cool team, and we really enjoy being together. The switch going to fully remote was not so hard for us because we always had the opportunity to work from home, and so from the transition was, I guess, really easy. But keeping and staying in touch with everyone, this was kind of a tough thing. And I also thought about it during the weekend when it was clear, okay, from Monday on we will close the office and we just move forward, and all the meetings we usually have, we have done digital. So it was a virtual meeting. It was always we all click the camera on and turn it on so that we can see each other. The normal coffee chats we usually would have at the coffee machine, preparing it, drinking it maybe on the balcony. We have also just done it digital, or we also had an after-work session also online. It's kind of different, but it's also cool to talk with each other about the different experience we had. I guess the first 1 or 2 weeks was kind of hard for all of us. Having the headphones on from 8 o'clock until the evening was kind of a tough situation, but I also saw a lot of potential. I saw that meetings have been more efficient, maybe. It shortened up a bit. People were much more empowered during the time. So we clarified a lot more what our people, maybe what can they do, what's the goal behind. We talked much more about the purpose of maybe some decisions and where the direction's coming from. And I guess it was a really cool enabler for all of us to be more safe, responsible. And so for me personally, I was also, I became more confident with some digital tools on top. So Miro, for example, I enjoy really much. Usually I'm the one also using the whiteboard and post-its and different colors. So then you have a confidence page, and the first day was like, ooh, okay, how should I do it now? Then I discovered Miro, and one of my colleagues from the product team, she's using it more or less every day. She gave me an intro, and then we now using Miro, and it feels like it's nearly the same.
Then Lena, with you, I mean, you were the people person of the last camp. You were basically the glue that held everything together. So it's like for you, it must have been hard to like really change your way around.
Actually, it was pretty fine. It showed me that I chose the right career because I didn't have any disadvantage for me career-wise or work-wise or anything. And I, yeah, I'm a people person, but I also enjoy being at home. So it was actually really nice for me to finally get my stuff done, because normally I always like meet all my friends all the time, which is great. But I don't know, I also send a lot of videos to, like I use Telegram, and then I send these video messages to everyone, and FaceTime calls, and I don't know. I got me a Corona roommate, so that was fun. It was nice. It was, I don't know. I still kept in contact with all my friends over, the internet. So there was like, it didn't change so much actually. I still communicated with everyone. So, yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, thank you very much for that interesting take on like the importance of human interactions. We now want to switch gears a little bit and have more of a discussion. So I'm going to ask one of you to start, to give your perspective, and then I invite everyone to respond to it as well. And well, the topic is to develop skills for a digitalizing world. And as I said, you're always faced with like what are those skills? What is a digitalizing world, and especially now? So how did like the job description or the job requirements or market and the work skills, work culture change with the digitalization that we've been having for quite a while, but it just now is like pretty much on crack. So.
So when I joined Project A 8-9 years ago, when I thought about digitalization, okay, that's maybe software developers and programmers. This was a typical job profile I had in mind, but there's so much more. During the last years, I discovered that there are people like Gabe. So you're coming from a music background. A friend of mine, so she has a degree in fashion design. She's the best tech recruiter I ever met. So she developed much, kind of an interest in that. When you think of digital topics and digital products, these are all made for customers, and customers are humans, and they are different. And maybe you think about building personas for your audience, and you can do it also in companies. You build the best products when you have a diverse team, and it doesn't mean gender or age. It's more about backgrounds, about how people think, what kind of perspectives they bring to the team, and it's always enriches and bring really, really cool potential. And even though you maybe have never worked in a digital company, you should not be afraid of trying and to apply for something like this and go in this direction. You don't need a degree in computer science or media informatics or something like this to join such a company, especially in startups. They're looking for people who have a drive, who they hire a lot for potential. They hire for having people with the right mindset and culture, and there's always a chance to get started in such an industry.
Wait, so you don't need to code You don't need to know coding
No,
to be a
so
programmer?
to be honest, I also was afraid of coding, and I was fighting with Excel when I joined the industry. And then I found really good friends. They are programmers, so they took me and invited me to go with them to meetups. So I started with going to meetups in front end or in product management. One of the best product managers I ever met, he studied philosophy. You can learn those technical skills, and when you think of hiring someone or looking for a specific person, you can train those people, and if people are eager to learn, it takes some time. You need to invest in those people, but the retention of those people is much more higher than if you're just looking for this diamond. It's anyway hard to find them, but investing in the development and building a great environment is much more what feels natural and makes a positive environment.
Yeah, I mean, like for all my friends that come from social sciences or that studied something, I don't know, and they don't know what to do after they finish studying, or it's hard for them to find a job. I always tell them, like, just do some programming, like, just learn some programming, because in the future everything is going to have some kind of digital aspect. And if you then come from the specific field, you're an expert. You can be an expert in both fields, or you can like be the moderator between the both of them, and that's what I also learned in my studies. It's super important for museums, for art, for theater, for music, for everything, for music that you do actually to when you want to have a job in the future, you have to learn it anyways, these skills. And when you learn them now, you're gonna always have an advantage. And yeah, it's just like a very, very, what you said. You bring so much to the table with a different background. Yeah.
And it's also not so hard to get in touch with something and to try it out. There are tons of different online courses, video tutorials, YouTube links that can help you to get the first glimpse of how it works. In all the different cities, there is something like Open Tech School, so you can just go there and have someone, you have a mentor, they're doing it for free to get in touch with this. Or maybe you start becoming a volunteer for a hackathon. You will meet so many interesting people, and they're always happy to help and to get started.
Yeah, but now I know what you taught Lena in the last camp, because you just like told her that great programmers are not people that program very well. But do you have like a certain take on that? Yeah.
I program very well.
Yeah, Lena programs
Gabe taught
really
me that.
well. But not only that. Like, that's the idea that you. I very much want to second what you just said. That there's no reason to be scared of the whole field. It's rather that you have to start getting in touch with it, like go to meetups, and maybe in the beginning there's like. I'm imagining it like a hill that you have to get over, where you need some base understanding to get into the conversation, and then it's just going to build up over time. And but that involves then the courage to first get in touch and like first expose yourself to all the stuff that you don't understand in the beginning, and then after that you will actually see like all the potential that lies there. Like, it's not only a scary, intransparent thing, that whole technology. It's actually a playground where you can have so much like. There's so much potential where you can just reach down, and it's not as scary as you think in the beginning. And it's also really interesting to know that the whole field is still very much not figured out. Like, it's really adventurous in comparison to other fields. If you think like mathematics or physics, it has been basically the same for the past decades. But in programming, everything is changing all the time, and no one really knows. And that's important to like know when you're getting into that everyone is kind of figuring it out as they go. But then it's also really important that you get some mentors or some guidance, like don't to try to do it completely by yourself, because since everyone is getting lost with it, like you want to get at least some help in orienting yourself. And that's what it's about. But after you get oriented, again, you get into the conversation and you build up skills over time because we're surrounded by technology every day. And that's the interesting initial step that I would say people should take if they want to learn digital skills.
Yeah, so you have to get up over that hump in the beginning, and then there's an open field where everybody can learn it. Yeah. And I mean, Inga, you're there right now. I know how frustrating it's been for you guys recently because you're like scraping that hill, and it looks like Mount Everest now, and it's just like overwhelming. Learning programming is super overwhelming. So I would imagine that you need a lot of frustration tolerance and a lot of patience and a lot of motivational skills. Are those the important things to learn programming, or what do you think are the important skills for programming and for digital age in general?
There is a hump of frustration to get over. When you start to learn program. What we started off in CodeCamp was HTML and CSS. So basically, what a website looks like. Make it pretty, make it useful, display some content and some information. And this felt like, okay, I can do this. I can get there. And then we started to get into the harder stuff. And I was sitting at my desk at home during Corona, and I was looking at the screen and watching Gabe do stuff and moving code from here to there and back over and copying. And I was getting cross-eyed. What is he doing? But then I remembered, okay, maybe for my field, for me personally, I don't need to understand everything in programming right now. I always have the chance to come back later and to revisit and to piece it together with the people that I have in my class and ask them about it. And just get my own take on things. It's what Lena and Victoria and Gabe have said. If you see programming as a possibility to enhance what you're already doing and to have your own take on programming, this is what it's all about. For me, it's about finance and processes and bridging it to people. And I take programming as a means to accomplish that. And this gives you motivation, it gives you purpose. And then programming is not that hard anymore.
Mm-hmm. But what are the skills that you think are really important for it? I mean, you told me how it feels and how you can tackle that frustration. That you need people, that you need a support system, a support network. But what are the skills that you need for programming and for working in the digital world?
So let me look at it in a wider sense. Working in a digital world, skills for dealing with the digital world. When I think about it, it's about learning and being curious all the time. I'm just looking back at where I'm coming from. I've got 15 years of financial controlling background. I've been all over the world. I've lived and worked in the US, in Singapore, in Israel. And during all those times, what kept me going and what was a very constant thing, that every year, every 2 years at the latest, I would dive into a new field and learn and be curious. And lots of it had to do with being in a digital world or being an entrepreneur and combining it all. 2 years ago, I got certified as a Scrum Master and Scrum Product Owner, and I've been living Agile ever since. And also this belongs to the digital world. It's about learning, it's about being curious. And another thing that is really important in the digital world is decision making. It's about what do you want to learn, what do you want to do? In a smaller sense, which tools do you want to use and which do you not want to use? For which are you content that you just know, okay, it exists and I know how it works? In which fields do you need to get informed some more and choose wisely? And then there are the fields that on top of that, where you rethink stuff and where you reinvent things through programming or through developing a product. And in the end, bridging it all. Learning, being curious, making wise decisions for your own, and bridging it to the people, interpersonally, because in the end it's about humans. It's about the daily interactions and moving things forward.
I wanted to say something. Coming back to what you said earlier, that you say like you just have to like see it positive and like not be scared. But because like for me, for example, programming was not like I didn't learn it in university when I studied computer science, because there was not the right frame for me to learn it, and that's why I did the code camp and I actually learned it. But I was also like never scared that I would not be able to program one day. It just took me like 2 years or something, and now I'm able to do it, and I'm able to work on my own. And sometimes I still need help, but it's sometimes. But I don't know. It's I think things like Code Camp is really nice because they take you on the hand, and because earlier you talked about this process, like you two talked about it. It's before this hill right now for you still, and it's super nice if someone takes your hand for like to go up this hill and to do this together, because otherwise it's so frustrating. Like I spent the last 2 days just installing something and getting a project working, and I cried, and it was like very hard. But like I don't know. It's when you make it, it's so much fun. And what I believe is like also like to this concept of being scared. You don't have to be scared, because when you do it right, programming can be so much fun. It can be super social and like a great teamwork and super creative. And that's, yeah, I think that's just what I wanted to add to everything you said. Yeah.
I think I might also add something that's, so we're talking about like you shouldn't be scared, and there's going to be the hill, and that you have courage. Like, and what skills do you need to learn? Like digital skills. Like, what is the precursor to all of that? And so, from what I see, it's basically that not the smartest and not the quickest people are the ones that succeed, but actually the ones that don't quit. Like, a lot of it is just you keep on going. Like, it doesn't matter if it takes 2 days to install something and you have to cry in the middle. That's all cool. That's as I said, it's an adventurous field, and you should take it like that. And then it's okay that we don't. But like we need some time to figure stuff out. But if you don't quit, like then you get through. And the problem is that if you quit, then just it doesn't matter. Like you maybe get on the first half of that hill, but if there is a hump, like there's going to be a hump that is going to challenge you like to the core. And then if you quit, you never get up that hill, and you can't get the downslope, which is actually the nice part after that. Like that you also see then sometimes things just work out, and you don't have to spend 2 days to install something maybe the next time. Yeah, so courage and not quitting, that's I think more important than just smarts. Or yeah.
I think an important skill is also learning to ask for help and how to ask for help, because like first, like I didn't ask for help in university because I wanted to be cool, and I don't know, I was like I never learned how to ask questions. I always thought, oh, I'm going to figure it out alone, but you can't figure out coding alone at home. You're just going to get frustrated. So I think like asking questions, and also like the social skill of like going into like being open to other people, going into this community, and I think a community is super important to help you to learn code, to get the skill set. And I wanted to add something say something with the help, but I forgot. It's fine. You go on.
Okay, so there's basically all those skills. Like it keeps on piling up all the stuff that is important to learn the code. I mean, how do you teach that in addition to all the technical stuff that you have 12 weeks for? So how do you teach asking for help and not quitting and all that kind of stuff? How do you develop those skills?
Actually, it's quite simple. Like I had a lot of ideas how you should teach it, and then in the end, it's relatively straightforward. You just try to build stuff, and the problems will arise then, the realistic things, like not the theoretically you should know this, this, and this, and rather go through a project and see what pops up, and then help them go through it. So they have had this experience of what it looks like, and they can imagine them doing it themselves. And just repeat that until like you have to take them less and less by the hand.
So it just magically happens when people code?
Like it's repetition, and like if you talk to people who taught themselves programming, that's how they do it. Like they just then can't ask someone for help. They just go online, and like then it's all slow, and it's much more likely that they're going to quit. But the idea is the same. Like it's a practical skill. You have to go through the motions. It can't be just taught in like, oh, I'm going to tell you how to do this, and then you're able to do it. You basically have to be there while you're going through it, because all the interesting problems just happen there. Yeah. Inga, you're nodding.
I'm nodding, yes. What Lena just said about her installing something for 2 days and then crying in the middle. We've had this, well, we weren't crying that much in CodeCamp lately, ever, I think, because Gabe was always there and helping if stuff didn't go wrong. It was like, yesterday we were installing 3 different programs and signing up for different services, and every single one of us in the camp had different error messages. And we were all trying to figure them out together. Gabe taking our hands, but us also Googling on the site and trying to help each other. This is about not being alone out there, and realizing that, yes, it's totally okay to ask for help, and the others even like it. They dig it. It's awesome to find bugs in other people's codes so that the code gets to work and is working. It's fun. And it's motivating.
And also if there are like 10 other people sitting there, they have the same problem, then it's not like, am I stupid? Is that my fault that it's not working? No, it's definitely not. Like 3 others have the same problem right now. So I think that's also helpful, like definitely being in a group, much nicer to learn programming that way.
Like back to your basic question about the skills you have to acquire, I think like the most important skill set or skills I got also from CodeCamp is like this, when I get an error, how do I deal with this error, or like how do I find where the error message is, or like all this like basic knowledge of where to look for documentation, how to read documentation, how to actually like document this error so you can ask someone for help, like be like, this is my problem, because we used to be like, oh, it's like when something didn't work, we were like, Gabe, and then he was like, after a while, it was like, him and Moritz are like, before you ask us a question, can you maybe try to figure it out by yourself, or try to formulate the question so I know you already thought about it, and so So actually, what we also learned were like to communicate about the code and to actually try to find solutions for it. And I think that's also like when I started programming, I just didn't have the terminology, and I think you should not be scared of not having the terminology. I still don't have it. I think it will just come with more learning. But yeah, I think that's like just this basic knowledge of how to do things, because what you said, you can't learn all of it, and you're never going to learn all of it, and you just have to be like, one day maybe I'm going to do it, maybe I'm going to learn something different, but just like to know how you're going to be able to learn it, it's already just like the most important skill, I think.
Well, to me, it sounds like you basically need a bunch of juniors with the same problem that suffer together, and then you need like this superhero Deus Ex Machina Gabe. So basically, I would say if you build a team, then get one super senior and 11 juniors. Is that like a good team composition, or what do you think is the best way to build?
There's
products?
Gabe, then we have the super senior with the 11 juniors maybe in the CodeCamp. So it depends a bit. So in companies, I guess you also need to develop something. So you have a goal. You also need to fulfill some business targets. But when you think of hiring junior developers, you should always think about, okay, I need to invest in them, and you need people who are also able to help them learn. If there are people, they are frustrated when and they cannot explain it in a way that people from also other departments or with other backgrounds can understand what they are talking about, then they're probably not the best fit for companies with people from even other backgrounds and skill sets. In companies, it's usually cool, or in communities as well, if people don't have the fear to ask for questions. Not only about how to ask, this is already a barrier. So it's hard for people, also for me, it was hard to ask for help and to support. But it's so cool when you see someone found a solution, and I'm during the time being in the digital field, I completely forgot about talking about problems. I'm so focused on the solutions, and if there something arises and there is kind of a critical issue, then I usually the one finding 3 solutions at the same time, and you can just pick which one you would like to have, depending also on the situation, and becoming there more flexible and not taking it so hard is definitely something you should learn during the time. And the best solutions or the best results I also never created alone. I was always doing it together with other people. It's coming from discussions with people also from other fields, other departments. When you want to build a product, or if you want to build a software or whatever it is, it's always teamwork. It's not because there's one genius guy doing it. It's because the team is knowing what's the direction, where do we want to go to, and they found their purpose and know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, we talked about teaching. I'm just going to weave in one of the Q&A questions in here, since we're already at the topic. So it's a question, who should be responsible for teaching such skills? If that should be government or private sector, or both? And I mean, CodeCamp is private. Universities are government. Who's right?
So I'm biased here. Maybe someone else should.
I can do it.
Yeah, you could do it.
That was me in CodeCamp the whole time. So I actually believe the government should be, like both, actually, like to answer your question. The government should invest in it, like also on the basis that they need more developer, and also for the digitalization of the public agencies. And I believe like right now also development teams are not diverse enough to represent a diverse society. So actually the government should invest way more money into programs for women, programs for people of color and black people, and just like to reach all communities, and to make like developing not such an exclusive or undiverse field, and to make like that's also not so scary to go there anymore, because a lot of people just think it's like they are not clever enough, or it's too or they will just not like the work environment. And I believe, and so many girls drop out of science when they are 11 or 12, because then other stuff is cooler and the group prefers to do other stuff. And I think that needs to be done way more from the government in education, like in school, and but also like so many companies think that or say they are diverse, or they want. They think cultural diversity is important for them, but they actually don't deliver, or don't, I don't know how you can say that, sie übertragen das nicht so richtig.
They don't live it, basically?
Yeah, they don't actually live it.
It's
and
basically something that they claim, but they don't live.
Yeah, and I come in so many interviews and I'm like, do you have female developers? And they don't, and like we all laugh because we know they don't have them. And then I'm like, then why don't you have female developer? And then they're like, yeah, it's hard to find some. There's not so many out there. And then I'm asking, like, but then you could maybe start programs for that, or invest money in this, or go into universities and like support study programs that are interdisciplinary, like digital humanities, or like programs like Code Camp, and because there should be way more code camps in Leipzig for everyone who's interested, because there's so many people that are interested. And yeah, I think companies should invest in that, and the government, like everybody.
Yeah, but if you want to get everyone, if you want to have a representative sample, then you just take some institution that like everybody has to go to, like schools, for example.
Yeah.
So you think that the current education system is doing enough for primary and secondary schools, school level, in order to tackle digitalization, which is such a strategic goal in Europe? So what needs to be done there?
Well, maybe I can say something in defense of the normal education sector. It's that because the field is so new and so constantly changing, it's super hard in an institution to be able to adapt to the changes that are happening there every day on time. Like, we're experimenting so much in the environment that we're building the code camp, and we need that flexibility to deliver. Like, we're changing the curriculum basically kind of week by week sometimes if we see stuff doesn't work out. You can't do that in a school. Like, it doesn't work. Like, it will take some experimentation, maybe in the private sector, to figure stuff out there, and then maybe we're going to be able to deliver that in the normal school sector. So I would say ideally it would be happening completely in a government-funded system, so it's not, it isn't relevant like what how you can finance the whole thing. However, we're not there yet, and that has technical reasons more than like the government doesn't want to do it. It's really hard to do that when you don't have that flexibility. Maybe they should try to be more flexible, although, but yeah,
so
I see why it's
basically you have to start up to prototype education or like education programs, and then have like the big institutions with a reach to implement stuff that worked.
Yeah, or maybe find a hybrid solution. Like, maybe it's you have to combine the two in some way and have an interaction there.
Yeah. May I propose something, or just inject an idea? Because it's like what Gabe said, he's changing the curriculum of Code Camp almost on a weekly basis because stuff is moving so fast. Programming languages, they pop up, they become popular, some go and die, some stay around for a while, and you never really know what it's going to be. So for the government to be expected to teach kids in primary school or in secondary school to learn programming languages, one or two or three specific languages, and that they are going to live and that they are going to profit from having learned this language until the end of their lives, this is something that is not going to work. So I'd rather would like the government to teach kids how to learn and how to be curious, and that they should how to always ask, why are we doing this, and how can we do it better? It's the only way that we can do it. And this is a skill that they can then take and can take to learning programming. They can take it to learn all other kinds of skills that we don't even know about right now, not today.
Yeah, but I mean that goes well with the discussion that we had on skills, because like pretty much all the skills that any of you you said were very wide and very general, weren't specific to programming, weren't specific to a domain or something, and that would be could be goals for education or for primary and secondary schools to teach like basically problem solving or like emotional readiness for problem solving and social interactions.
So I think I was not specific enough when I said what should be taught, but I mean, there's programs where people go into schools and build robots with children. It's just not, like, you're not going to teach them any language because they probably would not make so much sense, but you just like teach them the ability to, like, the possibilities, what is possible. You teach them the basic knowledge. And I think this should not also only include children, but it should also include adult education, because, like, for example, in Finland, there's courses for AI for free for everyone in the country because they want participation. And I think participation will also give people the power, because imagine if there's like algorithm decision making that influences your life, if it's by Arbeitsamt, if it's by Schufa or something, and you don't know how it works, you don't know that you have the right to object. And I think there should be just basic education on the topic, that it's not this like scary AI thingy that nobody gets and everybody just tells you, yeah, you will never understand it. But like, you can set the framework that you can at least kind of know how it works. And I think that's, that should be the task of the government, actually, to give education to the people and power.
Yeah, that empowers people. That empowers people as political subjects, but it also empowers people in like their everyday life. And I mean, that is basically like when I look at you, that is your big story for me, is the empowerment, is like how confident you got through programming, especially like coming from a bit of a precarious kind of background, like social sciences, try to find a job, good luck.
Yeah, I never thought I would find a job there.
And now it's just like, oh yeah, here, come to me, basically. So like, how did that feel, that empowerment?
I never had a problem finding jobs. I had super interesting jobs before, and it just came to me with people I liked, and they liked working with me because they liked my work ethic. But of course, I mean, programming, developing, it's like, it offers so many possibilities, it offers so much money, it offers so much freedom, and I don't know, and you can support so many great projects by doing this. And I want to have a part of it, and I want to get money for it, but I also want to get money for my social skills that I bring in, and all the other skills that I learned before. And I mean, for me, I also think programming is not so different from writing a thesis, because you need to do research, you need to understand the topic, and at the beginning everything is like scary and too much, and you need to read a lot on it, you need to write, and then you get this whole complex construct more and more, like when you're building an app. And I don't know, I feel like what empowers me is what Victoria said earlier. People that come from a diverse background can be so valuable, and that's also what Taylor always taught us and me. And I don't know, that what I bring to the table is super valuable, and I can be proud of that, and I can go to a company and be like, hey, I can offer this and this and this, and I don't want to get like student money for this, because I already have work experience, I already have a bachelor, and I should just be, like, my skill set should be acknowledged. And I think that's super important, to be proud of like what you learned and what you did. And even if it took me 5 years to finish my first bachelor, I worked a lot on the side and got learned other skills that are not,
It's fine, it took me 7, so. Okay, well then I'm gonna jump into the Q&A. So thanks for submitting the questions. Just feel free to submit them. I try to weave them in. So we're not gonna have like a structured Q&A with a hard cut, but just let me know. And there was a question for Ingrid and Victoria. This is whether you have a talent program in your companies. So looking for young people with specific abilities, and then what are the skills you look for? So it comes back to the skill discussion, but maybe more focus on the talent program and young people.
Wow, it's kind of a complex thing, because you can do so much when it comes to talent programs and to help people develop. In the past, it was always cool to have students in companies and interns, because they bring another background, they bring completely other perspectives, and they ask questions you never thought about. So having those young people in a company is really beneficial. And while they are in the company and you get to know each other, and they can also maybe look into different fields, maybe programming or product management or marketing or other fields, they can also develop kind of a field where they would fit into, where they can find their niche. And then it's definitely a benefit for the people if they can keep them after they finish university, and then having a trainee program that gives people time to look into topics, gives people time to learn from each other, also to get a glimpse of the other departments, what they are doing, and to give them also time and free time to join meetups, to do online courses, to go to conferences, and to get new inspiration, and to understand what are the trends and what to look more deeper into. This was usually always really successful in the past. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you have any specific skills that are required?
You mean for joining a company, or?
Yeah, I think that's what the question meant.
Eagerness to learn, and the cultural fit. Because if we spend 40 hours a week together, people should go along very well, and yeah, it's a communication skill, I would also say, and that's it.
Talent programs. I'd like to take a slightly different view on it. For talent programs, you usually get chosen, or you apply for it, and then you get selected, and then you attend. And this is perfectly fine, and I know Prisma is doing a great job there. There are some people, and you in the audience, you might be one of them, who don't want to be chosen, but who want to make their own way and their own path. And here you can select your own way. You can go and find yourself a mentor. There are lots of mentorships and mentor programs in the city of Leipzig. You can go and attend meetups and find your own crowd, and you can go and get the knowledge that you want. You can go and get the people that help you make your own way and find out who you are and develop your skills. And this is on top of, or besides, or in addition, however you would name it, of company talent programs.
I completely agree. When you mentioned talent programs, I was directly thinking of big corporates. They pushing you in a direction, and you will become exactly this person, and this is your job. And this is also not how we approach the whole thing. So we try to give freedom and to help people to develop what they want to do. Because if you're also new in such an industry, you would not know. Also, when I started studying, I had a completely different view of what I will do in the future. And also Gabe and many of us mentioned already that this is a fast-moving industry. So also my job profile changed over the years. When I started 9-8 years ago, HR was something administrative and was definitely not a department or people who created the company culture, who were in charge of change management. And we are changing every day, and being open and not having the fear of what's coming next. This is definitely something I needed to learn in the past.
Yeah, I'm also suspicious of talent programs. People who want to be selected instead of taking their own path. Like, I'm following what you said. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I want to take the last few minutes to widen the scope a bit and to talk a bit more about what it means for society and what digitalization is for society and us as digitalized or digitalizing people, citizens, members of the society. What we take from it, or how we become active in it, and what that means on the broad scale.
So a good example now in this Corona crisis. So I'm really privileged because I'm in digital companies more or less right from the beginning of my career. So I'm really used to that. So I also called my parents, so how are you, how is it working? And my father, for example, he didn't have the opportunity to work from home. In the company they have kind of iPads 11 maybe or 10, they're 100 people. So they need to pick wisely who can do it. And yeah, having kind of a mentor and someone who can help you and where you can maybe just look over the shoulders of someone else how they're using a tool is helpful. And yeah, the digitalization, I guess now it really kicks in, and yeah, I think those people who are more used to it, they should take the time and be the mentor and help others to go in this direction.
I think it puts us that are already part of the digitalization in the position that like we are privileged, how you said, and we should also acknowledge this. And of course you can make a lot of money with programming, but you should always also do open source projects or projects that are for the community and like use your power to help other people and to fight inequality and to not just like try to earn a lot of money. And I don't know, and yet try to change something like Victoria does in her HR apartment in Prisma. Like Prisma is one of the most diverse companies I ever saw in Leipzig, maybe the most. And yeah, I think that's very great. Yeah.
You want to go? Or?
Please, Gabe.
Okay, since it's such a broad question, like one thing that's on my mind is that we probably are figuring out right now that there's also a balance to where we should use technology and where we shouldn't, and become a little bit more sophisticated about that. So it will probably be about finding the right kind of filter mechanism, and everyone has to be like, you just can't take everything in, like you have to be able to filter. And then letting the technology kind of be more in the background. Like that would be my wish, that would happen, that we get smart with that and the technology just does the very minimal thing, doesn't interfere where it shouldn't, and only when it pops up to the least extent possible. And another thing I think that like a real problem is that because everything is becoming digital, we're entering like a global competition in basically everything. Like as soon as you pick up programming, and you're on Facebook in some group, you're basically in competition with everyone in the world. And that's kind of discouraging because like 99% of all people are then just kind of in the mediocre sector. But it shouldn't be. And I think there are a couple of things that we can do. First of all, being aware of the value of real interaction, and then also the power of locality, like that you do stuff at a certain place. Like just play that to your advantage, and then maybe it's okay that some people on the top are basically doing the really helpful stuff. Like I don't want to, like the 1% that's of best programmers are writing all the nice tools that we're using every day, and I wouldn't diminish that. But for the rest of us, that we focus on the interactions and what we bring to the table, and that's still valuable.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, so I've got more of a statement than a question from the Q&A. This crisis proved that after talking so many years about education, moving to a digital environment, it was done in weeks. The problem goes beyond technical. It's more food for thought for the audience. I would like to close with all of you getting one sentence to like what do you want to tell the world about developing skills in a digitalizing world? What is the take-home message from today in one sentence, briefly?
I'd like to start. I'd like to encourage everyone to get out there, get engaged in your community, get engaged in the digital community, if you like, in the creative or in the entrepreneurial community, whatever your take on this is. If programming is your tool, take it. If paints and brushes is your tool, take it and use it, and make the best of it.
Okay, that was one sentence. So was a very long sentence. Okay, quickly, Victoria.
Oh, I'm still thinking.
Okay, Elena, one sentence.
I like that we all brought so many different opinions to the round, and I like talking with you. And yeah, my main sentence is get aware about ethics and teach yourself. And that's super important when you get into programming, when you start using AI as a company, educate yourself about how to do fair AI.
Okay, very quickly.
I would say embrace technology, but make it your own. Like make your own version of what you are, you as a combination of what you bring to the table plus what you can take out of technology to support you.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. So be yourself, pick the tools you like, and it makes your life easier.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you all for watching, for following us. It was a real pleasure to be here. And stay healthy, stay well, and don't forget to develop your skills.